Do you hear it? The soft hum of your own heartbeat, steady yet fragile, tethering you to the reality you've chosen to ignore. It's easy, isn't it, to float along the surface, chasing what glimmers, what promises escape, what masks the truth. But hear me, the escape is an illusion, a lie, a fleeting breath, gone before you know it. All of us have been told that life is a thing to be conquered, a thing to be won. But we have forgotten the essential question: what are we running from? We grasp for more meaning, more success, more joy, more distraction, but none of it fills the emptiness that begins long before the chase. It is not the void that we fear, no. It is the truth that lies beneath the illusion of filling it. The truth that no matter how far we run, no matter how bright we shine, we are only ever a step away from the cold inevitability of loss. The world tells us that our lives are stories, shaped by our will. But this, too, is an illusion. Do you understand? The world is not as you were told. The dreams you have been sold are lies wrapped in the silk of promises, designed to distract you from the inevitable end of all things, including you. There is no escape, and there is no meaning except what you manufacture for a moment, a fleeting instant, a dream. And then, when you wake, you realize the dream has already slipped through your fingers. The human mind, broken and divided, constructs its grandest fantasies. We are taught that fulfillment is a destination, but it is not. It is an echo, a whisper, a fleeting mirage that promises an end to your dissatisfaction, but can never bring it. You've spent your life chasing it, haven't you? That elusive happiness, the perfect life, the approval, the wealth, the recognition. All the pieces that, together, form the ideal version of yourself. You sought these things as if they could save you, but where have they led you? What do you hold now, at the end of the pursuit? Only exhaustion, only an emptiness that no accomplishment can fill. You see, all that you sought, it was never yours to possess. The chase itself, the delusion of reaching something final, has only served to distance you from the most crucial question: what would you be if all of this were stripped away? The mind, so afraid of stillness, clings to distractions, to accomplishments, to the masks of others. The chase is a dream, a carefully constructed theater. The illusion of progress, of significance, is but a mirage created by the mind's insatiable hunger for meaning. But ask yourself, what does it truly mean to be free? Freedom is not in acquiring what the world tells you to want. No, freedom is in the quiet surrender to the truth of what is. And that truth, painful, honest, raw, has always been here, beneath the surface. Look now at your life, at the things you have built, the relationships you have forged, the identity you have clung to. Do you see them? The fragile things? The things that can vanish in the blink of an eye? The things that you thought would hold you together, but instead have always been quietly crumbling beneath the weight of your need for them. For what is it that you truly possess? What have you carried through your years that is impervious to time's decay? Nothing. Nothing but the shadow of your own desire. Desire for something more, something other, something better. Yet in all this wanting, have you ever stopped to wonder why the soul is so eternally restless? There is no perfect life to be lived, no perfect self to become. The truth is far darker, far more fragile. And yet, in its dark clarity, there is liberation. And yet, what you have failed to understand is this: there is beauty in the sorrow, there is truth in the dark, for the soul is forged in the fire of its trials, its moments of quiet anguish. The pain is not the problem, the pain is the messenger. You were not born to be happy, you were born to be human. And being human means you are bound to suffering. And this is where the paradox lives. You cannot find peace by avoiding pain. You will never be free by running from your fears, your losses, your inevitable end. No, peace comes in surrender, in acceptance, in realizing that there is nothing outside of you that can solve the problems within you. Not a job, not a lover, not an achievement. The only salvation is in surrendering to the truth that this is it. There is no more. The grand narrative of life, the myth we are all fed, is that we are heading towards something. We're all on a journey, aren't we? But what if this journey is nothing but a cycle, a repeating loop, and when it ends, we return again, just as we were? All that is left in the wake of that cycle is not a greater meaning, but the quiet acceptance that this is all there is. So, what is left after the illusions die? Only truth. Only raw, unadorned truth. And truth, like the cold wind of the early morning, will burn at first. It will freeze your skin and make your bones ache. But in the quiet surrender to that wind, in the acceptance that you are not above the forces of nature, you find the one thing that cannot be taken from you, peace. Not the peace of the deluded, not the peace of the ignorant, but the peace of the one who has seen it all. The one who understands that suffering is not a failure. It is the path, the way, the road to self-realization. This, then, is the truth you must face. You are not in control, but in the loss of that illusion, you find something deeper, something more profound. You find yourself, not the self you dreamed of, not the self that you think you should be, but the self that is born from the ruins of your illusions. What is left after the illusions die? Nothing, and yet everything, and in that nothing you are free. The world is but a stage, a performance where we all play our parts, unknowingly bound to the script of our desires. And yet, who among us dares to question the role they have been given? We move like puppets, unaware that the strings which pull us are those of longing and fear. The very essence of life, in its rawest form, is suffering not some abstract concept, but the inevitable consequence of existence itself. From the moment we are born, we begin the slow and painful process of losing everything. Our bodies grow frail, our minds grow weary, and all that we once held close slips away, little by little, until only the emptiness remains. And still, we persist. Still, we reach for things outside of ourselves, as if they might offer some relief from the torment of simply being. But the truth is this: no matter how far we stretch our hands, we can never grasp the meaning we seek. It is forever just beyond our reach, like a mirage shimmering on the horizon. We chase it relentlessly, driven by an insatiable need for something more, something to fill the aching void that accompanies our every breath. But there is no more, there never was. The chase itself, the endless pursuit, is the illusion that there is something to attain, something to possess, something that will finally satisfy the hunger that gnaws at our very being. This is the cruel nature of desire. It feeds upon itself, growing ever larger, never content. Every satisfaction is but a momentary reprieve, a fleeting respite before the next wave of yearning comes crashing down. You think you know what you want, but what you truly want is not a thing, nor a state, nor an achievement. What you want, what all of us want, is escape. Escape from the relentless grasp of time. Escape from the shadows of suffering that follow us wherever we go. But there is no escape, for the shadows are part of us, and to flee from them is to flee from ourselves. And so we build our illusions. We surround ourselves with comforts, with distractions, with the false promises of happiness that the world offers so freely. We construct our lives around the belief that if we only have enough, achieve enough, become enough, we will finally be free. But freedom, true freedom, does not lie in the accumulation of things, nor in the pursuit of hollow ideals. It lies in the quiet acceptance of what is. The realization that everything we seek is already within us, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be surrendered to. But how few are willing to surrender? How many are willing to stand naked before the truth, without the comforting layers of illusion to shield them? The tragedy of existence is not that we suffer, but that we suffer in ignorance. We do not see that the very things we cling to, the things we believe will save us, are the very chains that bind us. The ego, that fragile construct of self, is both our prison and our tormentor. It tells us that we are separate, that we are distinct, that we must fight for survival, for meaning, for recognition. But in truth, we are nothing more than fleeting expressions of the same force that moves the stars. And in the end, we will return to that force, as all things must. The ego will dissolve, the illusions will fade, and what will be left? Only the quiet stillness of acceptance. What, then, is the purpose of this suffering? What, indeed, is the meaning of life? It is not to accumulate wealth, nor to attain some lofty ideal of success, nor to find happiness in the fleeting pleasures of the world. No, the purpose is far simpler, far more humbling: to awaken, to wake up from the dream, to see through the veil of illusion, to embrace the truth of who we are in the face of all that we are not. For it is only through suffering that we can strip away the layers of pretense, only through loss that we can understand what it means to truly live. The pain that we avoid, the suffering we dread, is not our enemy, it is our teacher. It is the very means by which we come to know ourselves, and in knowing ourselves, we come to know the world. The tragedy of the human condition is that we seek meaning outside of ourselves, when the only meaning that can ever be found lies within. We look to others, to society, to the future, to promises of a better life, to fill the void. But all these things are fleeting, and when they slip through our fingers, as they inevitably will, we are left with nothing but the raw, naked truth of our own existence. It is in that moment of realization, that moment when all illusions die, that we finally come face to face with the reality of who we are. And so we return to the beginning, to the unvarnished truth of suffering. The truth that life is not a reward, nor a punishment, but a process of becoming. To live is to suffer, and to suffer is to become. In every wound, in every loss, in every heartbreak, we are sculpted, we are refined, we are made into something truer, something more real. The pain is not the problem, it is the path. The path that leads us, if we are willing to follow it, to the deepest realization that the only true liberation is not in the rejection of suffering, but in the acceptance of it. There is nothing to be gained in this life, nothing to be achieved that will fill the emptiness you feel. You may gain wealth, power, fame, but in the end, these are but shadows, fading and ephemeral. What remains, after all has been taken away, is the quiet realization that what you sought was never outside of you. It was always within. And in that realization, there is peace, not the peace of the naive, not the peace of the fool who believes he can escape, but the peace that comes with seeing the truth and being willing to live with it without pretension, without fear. This is the paradox of existence, that in the very surrender to what we fear most, we find what we seek. Not a fleeting happiness, not a life free from pain, but a life that is full of meaning, full of truth. And in this fullness, we find the liberation we have always longed for, not by fleeing from suffering, but by embracing it as the very essence of life. For what is life, if not the dance of light and shadow? What is freedom, if not the acceptance of our own limitations? What is peace, if not the stillness that comes when we stop fighting against the truth of who we are? And yet, this is where the trap lies, that we continue to resist the truth, to fight against it, to bend and twist it to fit our desires. We delude ourselves with the notion that we can control life, that by grasping for more knowledge, more experience, more success, we can shape our destiny. We can define who we are. But the truth is far more insidious. It reveals itself not through the force of will, but through its own silent inevitability. Life does not bend to our desires. It is not here to satisfy us, nor to fulfill our selfish cravings. Life is an indifferent, cold force that neither rewards nor punishes. It simply is, and within this simple truth lies a great weight. The very pursuit of self-interest, the very desire to elevate oneself above others, is the root of the agony we endure. For in this striving, in this endless reaching for something more, we deny the fundamental truth of our condition, that we are nothing more than fleeting expressions of the same fundamental will that moves the earth, that drives the oceans, that fuels the stars. And this will the will to live, to thrive, to exist is not our servant. It is not something we control. It is the force that drives us to perpetuate our suffering, to cling to the illusion of autonomy, to fight against the inevitable decay of our bodies and minds. It is in our very nature, in the essence of what we are, to resist the passage of time, to rebel against the inevitable dissolution that awaits us all. But this resistance is not liberation. It is the very cause of our suffering. The more we cling to life, the more we wish to escape suffering, the more we push against the inevitable flow of time, the more we entrench ourselves in our pain. It is in the struggle, in the fight to control and to possess, that the greatest suffering is born. It is only when we let go, when we relinquish the illusion of control, that we begin to find solace. In this surrender, there is no longer a need to resist what is, no longer a need to force life into some preconceived form. It simply is. And in this simple acceptance of what is, we are freed from the endless craving for something else. How many have lived their lives in pursuit of the fleeting joys, the hollow promises of fulfillment, only to reach the end and realize that what they sought was never what they needed. The wealth, the fame, the love, the power, these are but illusions, veils that hide the truth of what lies beneath. All the while, they believed that happiness could be attained, that peace could be found in the acquisition of things, in the gaining of status, in the pursuit of external validation. But all they have achieved is an emptiness that cannot be filled, a longing that cannot be quelled. The truth, however, is that this longing, this hunger, is not the problem. It is simply the voice of your soul calling you back to itself. When you strip away the illusions, when you face the truth of your existence without the comforting layers of distraction, you will see that there is nothing to hold on to, nothing to possess. You are but a fleeting moment in the grand sweep of time, a transient ripple in the infinite ocean of being. And yet, in this very fragility, in this very impermanence, lies the deepest form of freedom. Not freedom from pain, not freedom from suffering, but freedom from the need to escape. Freedom from the delusion that something else will save you. For all that you seek, all that you desire, all that you strive for is not outside of you. It is within you, in the very essence of your being, in the recognition that the only thing that truly matters is the ability to sit in the stillness of truth and say, I am. The endless chase, the endless striving, is the folly of the ego. It is the fool's errand. It leads only to disappointment, to heartache, to a deeper realization that nothing can ever fulfill the hunger that lies at the core of your soul. And yet, the hunger itself is not something to be feared. It is the invitation to awaken. You will find that the greatest peace comes not from achieving anything, but from realizing that there is nothing to achieve, nothing to gain, nothing to possess, nothing to lose. The greatest freedom lies in the acceptance of your own helplessness, the recognition that you, as an individual, are nothing but a fleeting reflection of a far greater, incomprehensible force. In this surrender, in this acknowledgement of your own smallness, you will find liberation, not from suffering, but in the suffering itself. For when you stop running from it, when you stop fearing it, you will see that the pain is not your enemy. It is the very substance of your life, the very foundation of your existence. It is in suffering that the truth is revealed. It is in suffering that we are made whole. For when you accept suffering as an intrinsic part of life, when you cease to view it as something to be avoided at all costs, you will find that it no longer has the power to torment you. You will understand that the struggle, the pain, the loss, these are the forces that shape you, that refine you, that draw out the deepest truths from within your soul. In the moments of darkest despair, you will see the glimmer of the truth you have been running from all along, that you are not separate from life, but a part of it. That the suffering you endure is not a punishment, but a gift, the gift of awareness, the gift of awakening to the reality of your own being. The only way out of this labyrinth of suffering is through it. And when you stop seeking an escape, when you stop pretending that there is any way to avoid the pain, you will see that the way forward is the way inward. The path to freedom lies not in rejecting the world, not in turning away from life, but in embracing it for what it is: fleeting, fragile, impermanent. The very things we run from, the very things we dread, are the things that will bring us closer to the truth. And in that truth, there is peace. Not a peace that shields you from the storms of life, but a peace that comes from the acceptance of them. In this acceptance, in this surrender, there is liberation. Not in the pursuit of a better life, not in the accumulation of wealth or status or power, but in the quiet realization that life, in all its pain and suffering, is enough. Enough to awaken you, enough to lead you back to yourself, enough to show you that there is nothing outside of you that can ever bring the fulfillment you seek. You must stop searching, you must stop running, for what you seek is already here, already within you. And when you see that, when you know that, you will understand that there is nothing more to be done. You will be free. ChatGPT dan nooit. And yet, even as we approach this quiet surrender, there is a voice within us that trembles, that resists the truth we are confronted with. The voice that says, I am not ready to let go. The voice that calls for one more grasp, one more chase, one more illusion to hold on to. How many times have you heard it? That whisper in the back of your mind, urging you to run, to seek, to strive. It is the voice of the ego, the voice that has convinced you that there is still something left to find, that there is still some secret that will make it all worth it. But listen carefully, that voice is not your friend. It is the architect of your suffering, the deceiver that keeps you locked in the perpetual cycle of yearning and disappointment. The more you listen to it, the more you will find yourself ensnared. For this is the nature of the mind. It is a master of distraction. It keeps you busy with thoughts of what could be, of what should be, of what might have been. It offers you endless possibilities, each one more alluring than the last, each one promising to finally deliver you from the pain of your own existence. But these possibilities are mere shadows, empty reflections of a reality that does not exist. They are figments of your imagination, projections of your desires, and they have no substance. In your chase for them, you move further and further away from what is real. You move further and further away from yourself. The mind does not want you to see this. It does not want you to confront the uncomfortable truth that nothing you do will ever bring lasting fulfillment. For the mind, in all its arrogance, believes that it can create the world it desires, that it can carve out its own meaning in a universe that offers none. But the truth is far simpler, far less flattering. The truth is that all the noise, all the thoughts, all the desires that swirl within you are but distractions, like the ripples on the surface of a still pond. They obscure the clarity of the water beneath. The mind is a veil, a cloud that keeps you from seeing what lies in the depths of your own being. What, then, is left when the mind's noise is silenced? What remains when all the distractions fade away, when all the illusions dissolve? It is a terrifying question, isn't it? To ask what is left when you strip away the masks, when you strip away the roles, the ambitions, the desires, the identities you've so carefully constructed. For when all of these things fall away, you are left with nothing but the raw, naked truth of your existence. You are left with the awareness that you are simply here, that you are a fleeting expression of the world, as transient as a passing storm, as fragile as the leaf in the wind. And in this realization, there is a strange form of liberation. Not the liberation you imagined, not the one promised by the world's myths and ideals, but a liberation of a different kind. A liberation born not of escape, but of acceptance. You are freed not by seeking more, but by embracing what you already are. You are freed not by filling the emptiness, but by recognizing that the emptiness is not to be feared. The emptiness is the space in which you exist, the space in which life unfolds, the space in which all things come and go. To live in this space, to be aware of it, is to live in harmony with the flow of existence. It is to let go of the false promise that you can ever control the world, that you can ever outrun the inevitable. How many times have you tried to escape from the truth? How many times have you sought to fill the void with distractions, with substances, with people, with accomplishments? How many times have you believed that there was something out there that would finally make you whole? How many times have you been disappointed? Yet, despite all this, the truth has always been here, patiently waiting for you to face it. The truth that suffering is not the enemy, but the path. The truth that the search for meaning is not the problem, but the acceptance that meaning is already within you. The truth that nothing will ever save you except the realization that there is nothing to be saved. And so, what happens when the mind no longer seeks to escape, when it no longer runs from the pain, when it no longer clings to the illusions of success and happiness? What happens when the grip of desire weakens and the soul is left alone with itself? naked in the face of reality. There is a silence, a deep, profound silence that pervades everything. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of truth. The silence that comes when you no longer need to speak, when you no longer need to strive, when you no longer need to become something more than you already are. It is the silence of acceptance. In this silence, there is peace. Not the peace of the fool, not the peace of the person who believes that the world is kind, but the peace that comes from seeing the world for what it is: imperfect, fleeting, fragile, and accepting it nonetheless. The peace that comes from recognizing that suffering is not an aberration, but an intrinsic part of life. The peace that comes from understanding that there is nothing to fear, because there is nothing to lose. In this silence, in this peace, there is a kind of transcendence, but not the transcendence you once imagined. It is not the transcendence of the ego, the transcendence of the self that believes it can rise above the world. No, it is the transcendence of the soul that has surrendered all pretensions, all desires, all illusions. And in this surrender, you will find what you have been seeking all along. Not a life free from suffering, but a life that is free from the need to escape it. You will find the ability to simply be. To be with yourself, to be with the world, to be with life as it is, without the need to change it, without the need to possess it, without the need to make it conform to your will. And in this being, in this quiet presence, you will find the deepest form of freedom. Not a freedom that comes from control, but a freedom that comes from acceptance. What is left when the illusions die? What is left when the masks fall away and the noise subsides? What remains is not a person, not a self, but the awareness of being. And in this awareness, there is a peace that surpasses understanding. A peace that cannot be described. A peace that simply is. It is the peace that comes when you stop seeking, when you stop striving, when you stop running. It is the peace of knowing that you are not the dream, but the dreamer. The peace of knowing that you are not separate from life, but a part of it. And in this peace, there is nothing more to seek. There is only the quiet joy of being here, now, just as you are. And so we arrive, not at some grand conclusion, but at the quiet threshold of acceptance. It is a place where words falter, where the mind's incessant chatter ceases, and only the rhythm of existence remains. For in truth, there is no conclusion. There is no final end, no ultimate meaning that can be seized or held. There is only this moment, this breath, this fleeting pulse of being that passes through us and then vanishes. The search, the struggle, the endless striving, it was all for this, to understand that in the end there is nothing to be understood. There is only what is. And in this realization, there is both sorrow and relief. The sorrow of knowing that all we have sought was never more than an illusion, a fleeting dream that promised to ease our pain, but only deepened it. Yet there is also relief, the quiet liberation that comes from seeing the illusion for what it truly is. The veil falls away, and in its place is the stillness, the unadorned truth that we have always been seeking. Not some distant goal, not some far-off happiness, but this, the unremarkable, unspectacular reality of being. It is the simplicity of existence that we have always run from, isn't it? We have mistaken the complexity of our desires for the richness of life, the noise of our thoughts for the depth of our souls. But life is not complex. It is not a puzzle to be solved, nor a riddle to be unraveled. It is simply this, a moment passing through us like a breath. The essence of it is not to be found in the accumulation of experiences, not in the piling up of achievements, or the amassing of wealth. It is in the emptiness, in the stillness, in the surrender to what is. We were told, weren't we? We were told that life was a journey to be conquered, that happiness was a destination to be reached, that fulfillment could be attained if we simply tried hard enough. But this was always the greatest of lies. The destination was never outside of us. The journey was never about what we could achieve or possess. The journey was always inward, toward the realization that there is nothing more to find than what already exists within us. And in this realization, there is not despair, but peace. The mind, so restless, so hungry, has been quieted. It no longer clamors for more, no longer insists upon some distant prize. It has seen, at last, that the pursuit itself is the prison, and the freedom lies not in the gaining, but in the letting go. We are not meant to be more than we are. We are not meant to be anything but what we are. Fleeting, fragile, vulnerable beings who are here for a moment and then gone. And this is enough. This is more than enough. This is all that can ever be. In this surrender, we find not a loss, but a return to ourselves. Not a death, but a rebirth. For when we accept the impermanence of all things, when we surrender to the natural flow of life, we find that we are no longer bound by the need for anything. We no longer need to escape, to chase, to fight. We are free, not because we have conquered the world, but because we have surrendered to it. Free, not because we have risen above life, but because we have embraced it in all its rawness, in all its beauty, in all its tragedy. And so we stand, not as victors, but as witnesses to the quiet unfolding of existence. We do not need to prove ourselves. We do not need to demand anything from life. We have seen the truth, and in that seeing, we are free. Free from the tyranny of desire, free from the shackles of the ego, free from the endless search for meaning that never ends. We are simply here, in this moment, alive, aware, and enough. What is left after the illusions die? Nothing, and yet everything. We are left with the bare, unvarnished truth of our own being. We are left with the peace of knowing that we are part of something greater, something infinite, something eternal, and that we need not strive to become it. We are it, in all our imperfection, in all our vulnerability. And this is enough. This is all there is. And in this simple knowing, we are finally truly free. For freedom is not the absence of suffering, it is the presence of truth. And in the truth, there is peace, not a peace that shelters us from the storm, but a peace that arises when we no longer resist it. This is the final liberation, not from the world, but from the need to escape it. It is not the freedom to have everything, but the freedom to need nothing, to simply be, and in this being, we are whole.